Hey creatives, and welcome to What I'm Watching Wednesday. If we've never met before, my name is Kim and I'm a creative freelancer with a passion for film and the written word. And if we have met, welcome back. And on today's What I'm Watching Wednesday, we're going to talk about something that's controversial, that splits the world in two. What is it? Let's get started. All right, guys, before we dive into that hard-hitting, controversial piece that I'm about to do, we're going to talk about What I'm Watching Wednesday. And What I'm Watching Wednesday is where every Wednesday I post a video where I make commentary and discuss things that I've just seen, just watched, whether they be good or bad. So if that sounds cool to you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But on to the earth-shattering, hard-hitting piece that I'm about to deliver. What is it? Well, it's Marvel versus DC. Who does it better? Like that, is there anything else more earth-shattering than that? So I'm gonna go ahead and let you know that I actually am a huge Marvel fan, but I remained Switzerland when I answered these questions. Because just like you guys, I've chosen sides, but I want things to keep going the way they are. I want to keep getting comic book movies and shows on TV about comic books. So I support everything, whether I support the comic book universe or not. So we're gonna do it really scientifically. I've got 4 questions. We're gonna break it up into film and TV. We're gonna hit tallies. So can I get Marvel on this side and can I get DC on this side? I'm gonna ask the question and then I am going to dissect the answer. So let's get started. Question number 1. Who is playing the better long game? Well, that's a hard question because, well, I'm lying. It's kind of an easy question. I feel like Marvel has this huge, like, different tiered layer, thought out plan of movies as they roll out, and every movie rolls into the next one. So they really took a lot of time to plan that out, and they allowed a slow build, right? DC, however, I feel is trying to play catch up. So they rushed into Justice League, and I feel like they could have done a better job maybe pulling the Flash in the Cyborg movie or even Flash in the Aquaman movie before Justice League, because part of my problem with Justice League is it took so long to get to the actual story, because they took the first half of the movie to introduce you to all these extra characters, and they had so many characters to introduce that if they had taken just 2 of those characters, put the movies before the Justice League, we would have only had to meet one and we could have gotten to the point faster. And I think that would have made Justice League a better movie. But that's a whole different tirade. We're not even going to talk about Justice League. So I'm going to go ahead and give that point, who's playing the better long game, ding, to Marvel. All right, question number 2. Who has better character development? Well, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the first question, and that is Marvel. Marvel gets that point. Ding! Because they took the time to introduce you to these characters before they joined them in teams. And so they have better character development because they've allowed you to have a couple different films. Also, I think that they take the time to create the environment that the character should live in. So DC does an okay job with this. I think Wonder Woman was spectacular. And if I was judging the DC cinematic universe only on Wonder Woman, they would have gotten a lot of these. But the rest of it is not good. Honestly, I don't know how you can have great character development. And this goes into another question, in the 4th question. But I'm going to go ahead and mention it now. And then it'll get mentioned again in question number 4. The rotating Batmans, the rotating Superman. The choice of Ezra Miller as Flash, questionable, but that has more to do with the fact that they have Flash in the TV show on CW, and so that is a whole different beast. So honestly, like I said, who does better character development? Marvel got that point, hands down. I think that DC, if they would stick with the format that they did with Wonder Woman, could have better character development, but I think because they've had so many different Batmans and they've had so many different Supermans, and so the story gets all muddled and you don't have as much good quality background story. So question number 3. Who has the better end credit scenes? I can't even try to figure out why DC does what they do. So we're going to give that point to Marvel. So that's Marvel 3, DC 0. I stayed to the end of Justice League in hopes that this would be a really cool end scene. And honestly, I was very disappointed. With Marvel, I think they do end scenes. There's a couple that are poignant to the story, and then there's a couple that are just kind of fun. And I think DC could have chose one or the other, but they chose to kind of do some kind of lame end credit scenes. And so they're just not as successful with their end credit scenes. So honestly, if DC would take a little hint from Marvel and kind of utilize their situation, their end credit scenes would be way better. So that leads us to the 4th question. Number 4. Number 4 question, who casted better? And as I said in number 2, I'm going to give this point to Marvel for the simple reason is I'm tired of rotating Batmans. I have had so many Batmans in my life that Batman is almost like James Bond. Like, he really is. I mean, you had Michael Keaton, you had George Clooney, you had Val Kilmer, you had Christian Bale, you have Ben Affleck, and now, rumor has it, Ben Affleck is not going to be in the solo Batman movie. So now we're going to have another Batman. That's 6 Batmans. 6! What the hell? That's too many Batmans. Not to mention Superman. So you had Christopher Reeves, you had Tom Welling on Smallville, you had Brandon Routh, and then you had Henry Cavill. Like, that's 4. 4! Pick one and go with them. And then you know what? If someone leaves, maybe re-envision Batman. Maybe choose a Batman that's different. Maybe do Azrael or a Batman Beyond film or something different. But for God's sake, just pick one. I'm serious. Okay, I'm sorry. I went on a little bit of rant, but honestly, I think Marvel does the better casting for that reason. And that is one of the reasons. I will say that some of the great casting, I really did. I was kind of unsure that I would like Jason Momoa as Aquaman, even though I love Jason Momoa. I was a little uncertain, but I thought that was great casting. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, yeah, I can't complain about that. So, I mean, they've done some good casting, but I don't think it's consistently good enough to get the point. So that was who does it better, Marvel or DC in film, and I believe Marvel that one ended with 4-0. Not looking good for the home team, DC. Not looking good for the home team. So let's move on to television. So television, honestly, DC has a very strong presence in television. They pretty much run CW with their superheroes, and Marvel has less of an imprint, but has been trying to get into it with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the Inhumans, and then now on Hulu we have the Runaways, which, by the way, Marvel's Runaways, yeah, good show. We'll rant and rave about that on another one. So let's get started with the questions. So can I get the scorecard cleared? Awesome. So we have Marvel, we have DC. Let's ask the question. So question number 1, who utilizes their characters better? So I'm sorry, Marvel, I'm gonna have to give this to DC because I think Marvel is so scared to deal with characters that are already present in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they try to stray away and they try to pick things that will have no influx with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the exception of in the first season we got Jamie Alexander, who was on Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Lady Sif. Like, there's been a couple things, but for the most part they try to stay clear of anything, and I think that might be a mistake in some aspects. And also there's not enough of them to have like crossovers and things, so I think that whoever utilizes these characters better is DC. You know, they utilize crossovers. Like I said, they pretty much run CW. They utilize their core characters, the ones that everybody are familiar with, and then add some in that maybe people aren't as familiar with. So I think, yeah, so who utilizes their characters better? DC. So that would be question number 1. So let's move on to 2. Question number 2 is the same as question number 1 for film. Who is playing the better long game? And in television, I'm gonna have to give that to DC. I think DC is playing the better long game. It has utilized, once again, one show to branch off and build everybody else. You have Supergirl, you have Arrow, you have Flash, you have Legends of Tomorrow, and all those feed into each other, and they do it well. And so I think, and they're marketing to the right audience. So I think CW is doing the right idea with, and DC is doing the right idea with their television shows. Now, Marvel shows have not been as successful as DC shows, and I think it in part is because they're not playing as good of a long game. Honestly, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I love Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the last couple seasons has gotten really great, but I think they maybe didn't plan out far enough in advance. And then you added Inhumans, which I have a mixed bag on that. Now, Marvel's Runaways on Hulu, of the three, I think has started off the strongest and the most impactful, but they're also marketing to the right group, and they're also tagging into kind of like a nostalgia thing from the Runaways. So once again, who's playing long game? The point has to go to DC. Has to go to DC. All right, so that leads us to question number three. Question number 3 is, who makes you care about the characters better? And unfortunately, as much as I love Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and much as I love the others, I'm gonna have to give that point to DC, because in the television realm, DC creates, because they have created that connectivity between all of them, you have a true connection with each character depending on what you watch, and I think DC does that better. I mean, Marvel does an okay job, but I think it's getting better, but I think, you know, if I just take the Inhumans, there was not a lot of, I didn't really care, and as excited I was for it, it just didn't hit what I thought it would hit. But once again, and you'll hear it again, and we'll talk about Marvel's Runaways in another one, what I'm watching Wednesday, that makes you really, there's a caring aspect to that. All right, guys, that leads us to the last question. Question number 4. Who is more bingeable? So I am going to give this to Marvel, and only because there is so many seasons of the DC shows that I just could not binge it. And honestly, trying to binge one season in one sitting, I don't think would really work. That's my opinion. I think Marvel packages theirs in nice, neat, tidy little like storylines, and so you could very well binge. You know, for instance, last season on Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was LMD, so you could binge that as like a series, and so on and so forth. So I do think, and I'll give that point to Marvel, that Marvel television is more bingeable than DC. All right, guys. So with television, that gives DC 3. Marvel 1. So who does it better, Marvel or DC? I think it depends on the medium you're talking about. If we're talking about film, it's gonna be Marvel. As much as you know, the fans of DC might, and I'm gonna get lots of comments down below that maybe says different, I think Marvel does it better in film, but I think DC does it better in television. So that's my take on who does it better, Marvel versus DC. Let me know down in the comments what you think, who does what better, and that's it for what I'm watching Wednesday. If you like the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you're digging on what I'm watching Wednesday, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And until next time, creatives, safe journey.